All right, hello everybody. We're gonna go ahead and get started. Sorry for a little technical difficulty there in the beginning, but it's all good. We got through it. So my name's Kelly Salguero. I'm a clinical rehabilitation engineer at the Richmond VA Medical Center.
My name is Andrea Angulo. I'm the clinical rehabilitation technician at the Richmond VA.
And today we're gonna be talking about innovative mounting solutions for wheelchair users.
So, because we work at the VA, we got to get over the legalities. So, the content of this presentation does not necessarily represent the views of the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs nor the U.S. government. All information provided will remain absolute property of the person submitting it, and intellectual property shall not be copied, distributed, or disclosed beyond this presentation. Well, this is me. By the end of this presentation, hopefully you'll learn something. Ideally, you'll learn that 3 different brands for off-the-shelf mounting solutions, describe at least one pro and con for off-the-shelf mounting solutions that we'll talk about. And we'll go over 3 case studies so that you can see the custom mounting solutions that we make. You wanna click it? So some of the off-the-shelf solutions, so we have a variety of options. So these are referring to the multiple vendors that we use, to search up a specific product. So if you want to look for the right tumbler or the right charger on Amazon, you have a lot of options for off the shelf. And then commercial available. So this is referring to you can buy it online or in store, and you can quickly get it depending on shipping. And then it's ready to use. So when you receive the product or when you buy it in store, you can quickly install it and put it to use. Limited customization. So with off-the-shelf solution, you can go by size, go by color, but it's not a one size fits all. Sometimes you need a little bit more to it to fit the specific needs of the user.
So next we've got our custom solutions. Custom solutions tend to be innovative. They're a little bit more out of the box. They're novel. They get those creative juices flowing when you create them. They also meet an unmet need. A lot of off-the-shelf solutions may meet one need or two needs, but if a patient has multiple needs, then a custom solution can go ahead and create and meet all of those needs. And they're also patient specific. So like Andrea said, off-the-shelf solutions are not one size fits all, but custom solutions are almost, one size fits one. Although sometimes it can fit multiple. However, custom solutions, and this one's kind of a pro and a con, they're a quick turnaround, but it does depend on what the custom solution is. If you already have the materials on hand, or you have like a rapid prototyping, then custom solutions sometimes can be much faster than trying to procure an off-the-shelf solution. But then also with custom solutions, you got to be wary that you may run into not having the right materials, or maybe there's some fabrication delays or manufacturing delays. So then, or you need to make multiple iterations of the solution. So then your quick turnaround ends up turning into a long turnaround time. And then making custom solutions. So custom solutions can really be made out of anything. Typically, me and Andrea, we use things like spare parts and hardware that we've stockpiled, and harvested off of some wheelchairs, or mounting devices that we've gotten. We also use things like a combination of different off-the-shelf items, which those spare parts can sometimes help us combine, like a modular hose with a ram mount. We have basic fabrication tools, so that's using things like drills, saws, sanders, things like that. And then we've also got 3D printing and laser cutting. We're fortunate enough at the VA, or at least at our site, that we have multiple different types of 3D printers, laser cutters, manufacturing machines. So if we need something that requires a softer material, like a TPU plastic, then we have machines that can print with TPU. Or if we need something that's a little bit more rigid, a little bit more sturdy, then we also have some harder materials as well.
So some things to consider when mounting. So when you're seeing a patient, what type of mobility device are they using? Are they using a power chair? Are they using a manual chair? What type of brand? Other things to consider, cognitive and physical ability. So are they going to remember how to use a mounting device or the mounting system? Can they put the device into the system? Can they take it off? Do they have limitations, like physical limitations? Can they actually use a knob to loosen the clamp? Things to consider. And then fixed and versus removable. So are they going to have to take off that mounting solution to transfer, to get up to tables? Is it going to get in the way? To talk to someone, do they have to move it out the way so they can actually make connection? Very important caregiver support. So do they have someone that can help them with that? Are they going to help them install the mounting solution? Are they going to rely on someone to help put the device into the mounting solution? Do that caregiver have limited, what was I going to say?
Physical limitation.
Physical limitations. I think it's over those. Yep.
And then we've got things like durability. Some patients a little too strong for their own good. They need something that's going to withstand a lot of abuse, especially if they're really rough with their devices. We also want to consider chair real estate. Some patients have everything but the kitchen sink on their chairs. So you gotta make sure that there isn't space available to mount things or find new spaces to mount things. Chair proportions, you don't want to make the chair 6 inches wider. You also don't even want to make the chair 1 inch wider in some situations. Even 1 inch wider can make it so the patient no longer can get through the doorways or easily navigate their environments. Kind of going into their environments, where are they going to be using these devices? Are they going to be using the device just around their house? Are they going to be going into their gravel driveway? Do they live outdoors? Do they go outdoors often? Other things like that. And then also aesthetics, which obviously might not be the most important one, but it is really important for patients to feel comfortable using the device, to want to have the device on their chairs. If they don't want some big, shiny, bulky mounting device, then they're never going to use it and it's going to end up abandoning it. And then they won't have things like their phones or their communication devices.
So locations for power wheelchairs, we kind of have to think outside the box depending on what chair they have. So common things that we mount is like a phone mount. So for that, you have to have it in sight of the user, in reach of the user. So we typically put on the joystick or the seat rail or the thigh guide. Did I say armrest? If I didn't, armrest. And then stuff like cup holders, that also has to be within reach, right? So we have to do the armrest, or if we have a hydration system, that can go on the headrest rail. So it comes back from the front, and if they use a long straw, they can reach it. Stuff like switches that can kind of mount anywhere that we need to. So we can go from the headrest to the thigh guide to the joystick, seat rail, anything on that slide. And then I think that's about it, but different locations that you can consider.
And we've also got manual chairs. So manual chairs, little tougher to find places to mount things. But things like phone mounts or rear view mirrors, anything that has a clamp, so cup holders too, can typically go onto that front frame, or sometimes the swing away footrest or fixed footrests. Things that are like power assist devices, like your smart drives and like the Sunrise ones, Impulse. Those things we've even mounted onto the armrest, or we've drilled into that clothing side guard. And then other like hydration systems or anything else that it can be in the back of their chair, can also go on to their rear canes. All right, now we're gonna do a question for everybody. What items do you consider essential to carry with you every day? Or maybe what do you consider your patients' essential items that they need to carry every day with them? Feel free to scan that QR code, type a couple things in. Okay, water bottle, phone.
Snacks, important. Keys. I don't know about that one.
All right, lots of waters, lots of phones, medical supplies. It's also very important. Elevator stick. Oh, nice. All right. Holy cow. This was a lot more answers than I thought we were going to get. This is so exciting. Someone take a picture of this so I remember it.
These are good ones.
Emotional support plushie. I like that.
Support dog. Yes. Put them on the lap.
Yeah. All right. So you guys can see there's a lot of things that you want to carry every day on yourself that you may consider essential, All right. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
So one of the key ones that you guys have said, and what I would assume mostly everyone in this room is carrying, a phone. That's important to carry, whether it's a smartphone like an iPhone or an Android, or a tablet or an e-reader, Kindle. That's stuff that we want to carry with us, just like our patients want to carry with them. And then some of our veterans use AAC devices to communicate. So they need to have them with them to actually talk to people, so that communicate what they need. Awesome. So some of the stuff that we have, the off-the-shelf options that we typically go for. So if we want something that's more rigid, more heavy duty, something to hold heavy stuff or just expensive stuff, right? We have the mountain mover and the readapt tablet mount. So they're sturdier, they're bulkier, they're a little more expensive. What else have we talked about this one?
So they're also good for like durability. So again, going back to sometimes if patients are a little rougher, or maybe if they're in a community area, like sometimes nursing staff's a little rougher with their items, then a readapt or a mountain mover can be good because it's harder to break.
Yes. So on the next side, we have like the RAM foam mount and the MOGO. So these are a more rigid option, a little more cost effective, and they offer more adjustability. But the downside is that you have to loosen a clamp to be able to reposition. So that's kind of hard for some patients who lack that fine motor movement. Um, but what the nice thing about the MOGO, it has like a quick click feature so that you could just clip in your phone or clip in your tablet and rotate between devices without having to change the whole like mounting system, which is convenient when, they want to switch from reading a book to calling a friend. And then we have our go-to old reliable modular hose. So this is what we tend to use a lot with our patients. The downside with it though is because you use a lock line hose, over time it tends to droop, or if you need it really high up, it tends to droop. If you use heavy items, sometimes it also tends to droop, but it's really easy to move and reposition for those people that can't use their fine motor movement. They can just push it out the way. The thing that we have noticed though is the phone clip that it comes with, people tend to over tighten it. They tend to just crush down their phone on it when really they just need to fit it snug enough for it to fit. So yeah, that we have a hard time telling veterans to slow down or nursing to take into consideration. So some of the custom solutions that we've made or other rehab fellow sites have made, we have a joystick phone mount. So that one kind of it's a 3D printed design that you slide on top of the joystick, and it has a 1-inch ball at the top that's compatible with the RAM parts that we use. So in this particular one, we also made like an adapter to go from the phone clip, the lock line phone clip, to work compatible with the RAM part. So we use all 3 different devices to make something that's in sight of the user and in reach. And we also didn't add any more depth to the chair or width to the chair, sorry. So that was important. And then the second picture shows the most common one that we use. It's a modular hose flat surface mount that helps with the rotation of the device. So on one side, it fits a modular hose flat surface link. And on the other side, it slides into the rail of an armrest or a thigh guide or a side rail. This one in particular works with the Permobil chairs, but we have made other designs that work with Quantum or Invacare. So this one we kind of put in with a nut to slide into the rail, and then when they reposition, the user repositions the whole mount system. It helps it not twist and get loosened over time. And then, do you want to take over this one?
So this last picture kind of showcases 3 different ways that we used our off-the-shelf mounting solutions. So up at the top, that's our like 3D printed knob that we put on the lock line. Modular hose phone mounts. So like we said, sometimes people have issues over tightening it and breaking it. But also it's just a normal circular knob. So sometimes people with fine motor issues aren't able to hold on to the knob and twist their phone in. So this makes it easier by extending it to help them just use maybe just a finger or the side of their hand to put their phone into the phone mount. The middle piece is a RAM to lock line adapter that we 3D printed. So it allows you to use both the rigidity of the RAM parts with the flexibility of the modular hose parts. And it also helps, again, with going from modular hose to RAM if they need that modular hose phone mount. And then down at the bottom, this one is a random L bracket that I found in the back of our shop that the patient wasn't able to mount anything under their armrest. The cup holder was in the way of getting into their thigh guide. So I was able to use that L bracket to mount it onto the bracket of the cup holder. So then they could still have a phone mount without needing to add anything else to any other part of their chair. Now we're going to go into a little case study about phone access. So we've got a patient. He's male, 61 years old, complete C1 to C4 quadriplegia, very limited arm range of motion, and he has pronation of his hands. He's got no bilateral upper extremity fine motor movement. He can basically just move his arms like this. And the patient, very tall, 6'7". So it's both hard to get him into a chair and then also a little hard to find some mounting solutions for him. His goal while he was in his power wheelchair was that he wanted to access his phone to be able to call his family members, see what time it was, see his therapy schedule, and then he also wanted to be able to safely reverse in his power wheelchair. I guess I didn't mention, he also has very limited neck range of motion. He's not able to turn to the side to see where he was going when he was backing up. Some things that we wanted to consider. He's using an alternative drive device. He was being set up for sip and puff at the time. Needs to be sturdy, especially if he's 6'7". This kind of goes into accommodating the patient's height. The device needs to be at eye level, so it's going to be very tall to accommodate the 6'7" height. So it also needed to be sturdy, and nursing was going to be helping put his devices, so it also needed to be simple, sturdy, easy to put on. Patient's cooperation. He was a little hesitant to use adaptive devices. He was very new to his injury, so it did take some convincing. So it also, again, needed to be simple. We wanted to limit the number of things on his chair. He already had a lot going on. And then aesthetics. Some of the off-the-shelf items that we considered a modular hose, lockline phone mount, and rear view mirror. But again, as Andrea was saying, due to the flexibility of the hose and it needing to be so tall, if it gets up to that angle, then it does just start to droop down. And then it wasn't sustainable for him to use it the entire day. We considered the RAM mounts, X-grip phone mount, and some of the double socket arms. But again, due to that height, using so many arms to reach that height kind of interfered with the stability of the mount. And then we considered also a readapt universal phone mounting kit because that would be sturdy, it could reach the height, and it would be easy to move out of the way. But he already had an Omni mounted on his chair, so it kind of played into it, just made the chair really busy, and he wasn't able to kind of comprehend having all that on his chair. So what did we do? We used a combination of the Permobile Permafix hardware that was already on the chair for his Omni, for his sip and puff system. We used a modular hose phone mount, just the phone mount, none of the lock line. And then a 21st century scientific rearview mirror. So here's the solution. So as you can see, we used the existing Omni, and then we used some spare Permafix hardware that we mounted off, and then we adapted the modular hose phone mount to the Permafix hardware so that he could have his phone right next to his Omni. And then the 21st century mirror and the Permafix pole were both threaded so that we could just screw it right on top. And then he also ended up learning that he wanted to be able to tilt his chair independently for pressure reliefs. So just using some spare hardware, the Permafix hardware and some Velcro, we just attached a switch right next to his elbow.
So some other essentials that our runners like to carry with them, or just anybody in general: coffee, get them up in the morning, their water, keep them hydrated, their reacher, if they drop something, they need to pick it up, or they just simply need to reach something close to them. A walker, a dressing stick, oxygen, they need to breathe. All right. Off-the-shelf mounting solutions that we have for these stuff. So some of the stuff is like the Permeable RAM mount self-leveling cup holder. That one's really nice because if they're going up a ramp, they need something to level it out so the cup isn't tilting, it isn't spilling. And it comes with a little cozy. So if the cup is a little too small and it doesn't fit, the cozy is going to help you out. Sorry. And then it can also fit on the armrest, right? So it's easy accessible for the veteran or user. And then we have the wheel scooter cane holder so that they can attach to the back of the scooter and always have the cane with them. So in case they need to use that to get out of the chair or transfer into the chair and make short distance, they can use that. And then some of the stuff that we keep in stock in our VA is like the modular hose giraffe bottle or the flexi mug. This is our go-to to put on the back of the chair so that the user can stay hydrated throughout the day. And also the long straw that you can kind of see, like the lock line link, the black straw, it kind of is flexible and it holds the straw in place. So if they don't have to hold on to the straw at all times, and they can just kind of position it near their mouth and reach over and drink whenever they need to. And then we have the Pride Mobility oxygen tank holder, so they can keep their oxygen tank in the back of the chair to use it at all times.
All right, so here's some of the custom solutions. There's a lot, I'm sorry. So we've got things like a knee block holder for a standing chair. If you want to be able to keep your knee blocks on you so that when you go to standing, you don't have to go all the way back to your room to grab your knee blocks. This is a 3D printed hook that was attached onto the headrest rail. so the patient could just keep it on them at all times. We've also got a cane clip. This is a universal cane clip, so it'll fit multiple different sizes of canes. It can mount onto the side of your chair. It can mount onto the back of your chair. I think we've done it in the middle of the chair as well. And then you can just slip your cane right in, and then you can use it when you need it. We've got the multi-cup cup holder. This is a really popular 3D design that we've made at RVA. It can hold multiple different sizes of cups, and then it's also got a slit out in the front so that if you're using a coffee cup with a handle or the what are those, the Stanley cups with the with the handle, then they can just slide right in. And then we typically pair this with some sort of off-the-shelf clamp, so like a mini clamp or a ram claw, so then it's really adjustable on where on the chair you're going to put it, especially for our manual chairs. And then we've also got a lap tray receiver cup holder. So a lot of people who are using standing chairs or have a lap tray always have those receivers. So then if they just want to carry their cup while they're going to therapy, then they can just slip that cup holder right in, put their cup in, head on out. And then when they don't need to carry a cup anymore, it's super easy to remove, take it out, put it to the side.
Some other stuff that we typically use in the clinic is the power wheelchair switch mount. So this allows us to put a switch onto like the bottom of the joystick so that the user can easily just swing their arm and hit a button, whether it's to do their latch tilt so that they could do their pressure release every like 20 minutes. They can easily access that, or we can put on the outside. So if they need they can't do that lever to turn on the chair, they could just hit the switch and turn it on. Other stuff that we have made is an oxygen tank holder. So at the time, we didn't have the right oxygen tank holder for that specific brand of chair. So we had to think outside the box. We found an oxygen tank holder that we had. We had some spare rails and ram claws. So we combined all three and we made kind of like a Frankenstein project to put the oxygen tank holder, and actually it held up and it worked. So yay. And then another one, the last one that we have at the bottom, it was kind of a collaboration with the veteran. He was very involved and he wanted to name it towards him as a kudos. So we did. It's called the Dean Dueler. It holds both a dressing stick and a reacher so that they can have it with them at all times. So they can just clip in and clip out pretty easily, and it doesn't require much force. The second case study, we're going to go over a cup holder situation. So this patient was a male, 51 years old, incomplete C1, C4 quad. He had good arm range of motion. He had good grip strength, but he had some numbness in his fingers. And then the main goal with this was he wanted to independently carry his drinks while in his manual wheelchair. So we had to think of stuff that could be easily removable. So that when he went up to a table or a counter, it wasn't bumping in, he wasn't spilling his coffee, he wasn't breaking the cup holder. We had to think simple, right? He didn't want anything too showy. He wanted something just straight to the point. And then his wheelchair in specific was just made wide enough to fit through his doorway since they were very narrow. So we couldn't add anything to the sides. That was a key factor while deciding. And then this patient, he's a funny guy. He wanted to be the guinea pig, is what he called himself, to try anything and everything that we could offer him. We're still waiting on that rocket ship for him. And so some of the stuff that we consider for off the shelf is the modular hose giraffe tower XL system. So we kind of brushed on it a little earlier, but we did set this up for him, but we put it on the back of his chair. And it was a good hydration system for him. He liked it, but he wanted something to specifically hold his cup of coffee when he went to the canteen, which is our cafeteria, or his soda or anything that he carried, so he didn't have to carry in his lap and then it spilled while he was driving. So not giraffe. And then we also considered the ramp mount self-leveling cup holder, but it didn't fit all his big like Stanley cup. And it also, he just didn't really like it. He wanted something else. I think he just wanted something 3D printed. So which led us to the process of making this, right? So behind door number one, we have our 3D printed multi-cup holder. So this kind of accommodated that Stanley and the handle that he had, and he could switch between a cup of coffee and his own mug. Then we used the modular hose mini clamp. So that we attach this to the cup holder so easily mount to his manual wheelchair and play around with different placements while we were trialing the solution. And then lastly, spare parts and tools. So anything we found in the back of our AT lab that haven't been touched for years, we put together to make a solution. So this was our solution. Essentially, we had one little pole underneath the armrest to work with. So we found a clamp that can hold on to that pole and our two and to the random pole that we found. So with those two, we were able to mount the cup holder with the mini clamp onto that pole so that he can also take it off when need be. So he can go up to a table and he didn't spill his cup of coffee. Okay.
And next, these devices, aren't exactly going to be a part of your everyday carry, but these recreational activities or leisure participation are very important, to the quality of life of the veteran or any patient. So we still want to help them out. So we've got things like bocce ball, bowling, photography, esports like adaptive gaming, and then also things like other adaptive sports like air rifle or hunting, fishing, things like that.
So some of the off-the-shelf solutions that exist now is the limited mobility shooting mount, which Kelly will go into a little more as a preview to our case study number 3. And then the modular hose camera mount with spring clamp. So this allows the veteran to, put their phone on, or sorry, excuse me, their camera on there and mount to like their wheelchair or a table or anything, any surface that they need to. And then we have the RAM and modular hose Xbox adaptive controller mounting. So again, this allows the user to mount it to the chair and just have an easy way to playing their games. And they don't have to worry about holding it or just anything in that realm. I'm doing this, not bad. So I'm gonna go from the top left to the right. So the first we have the adapter plates for Logitech switches. So this allowed us to use the lock line as well as a little base to put the switches on and then mount onto any table or surface that they're going to be using. And then we have the bocce ball ADA mount and RAM mount. So this lets us put the bocce balls on the tray, acrylic tray, and then it clips onto the manual wheelchair on the frame at the very bottom so that the user can have the bocce balls with them at all times when they're playing and they don't have to like reach down into a bag or whatever they're holding it. They could just put it on that tray. And then we have the elbow pad gaming switch mount. So this kind of is like a clip that goes on the elbow pad of the wheelchair user. And then they can just move their elbow to activate that switch to do a specific function in the game. And then we have the PlayStation 4 cradle. So this kind of helps with combining the lock line hose with a clamp to a surface like a table. And then it has like a cradle that holds its PlayStation controller. So you don't have to physically hold it in case that veteran has like some weakness over time. And yeah, it allows them to play independently.
And then on the bottom, on the left side, we've got one of our adaptive gaming trays that we've made. So it combines laser cutting, 3D printing, and using some off-the-shelf switches. So you can see the adaptive Xbox controller with 2 joysticks that can either mount into the lap tray receivers of their chair or just sit right on top of their lap. And then he's also got a shoulder switch for some additional access and a mouth switch as well. And then in the middle, we've got the bowling ball ADA mount. So it allows the veteran to keep the bowling ball right in front of them. They don't have to carry it in their lap, especially if it's really heavy. And then they can move around the bowling alley however they need and still keep the bowling ball on them for when it's their turn. And then on the right, we've got another lap tray that we have. Again, sits in the receivers. This one's for the Sony PlayStation. So it's got 2 of the access controllers along with a mouth controlled joystick as well. All right, our third case study. We've got male, 51 years old, complete C5 to C7 quadriplegia, limited dexterity and loss of grip strength in his hands, but he has mostly full range of motion up in his arms. His goal was that he wanted to be able to independently use the air rifle when in his wheelchair. Our program, we have a weekly air rifle clinic, and especially while he was inpatient, he wanted to be able to go every Tuesday to participate in those leisure activities. But some things that we wanted to consider, it needed to be easily removable. This isn't something that he needed to carry himself every single day, all the time. He really wanted it to be simple. He didn't want anything flashy, just a simple in and out. Needed to be sturdy, because he was going to be holding something heavy like an air rifle. And the patient was very eager to participate in the design. We had designed some things in the past for him that he loved being a part of that process, going from just a drawn design to seeing it being built to having to use it in real life. There weren't many off-the-shelf devices available. We did a lot of market research, consulted with our recreational therapist to try and figure out what we wanted to do. We did have him trial the limited mobility shooting mount, but unfortunately for a side-mounted rifle holder, that was only for, I believe, like a magic mobility chair, which he did not have. He had a permobile, so he couldn't have it mounted on the side. It would need to be mounted to the seat pan in the middle, and he didn't want something in between his legs, and he wanted to be able to fully remove it once he was done. And he wanted to be able to hold kind of the stock and the trigger of the gun, but he just needed help supporting the barrel in the front. But the limited mobility shooting mount kind of just supported the whole gun, and he didn't really want that. So our process, we used a spare mountain mover pole and receiver that we had in our office. And we also used a spare gun yoke of the limited mobility shooting mount, which is like one of those guys right there. And here is the solution. I was kind of fortunate that the little rubber stopper of the top of the mountain mover pole was the exact same diameter as the limited mobility gun yoke, so it just fit right in. And then in order to keep it together, we used like a drill press and we threaded it so then it could just screw right in, super sturdy. We did shorten the mountain mover pole as well, about 6 inches, just to make it the right height for him. And then there was some side to side movement so that he didn't always have to pull up to the table in the same direction each time. And he was able to easily remove it himself for when he wasn't at the clinic.
So, when to consider custom solutions? When off-the-shelf solutions don't fit your needs, right? So when your user has tried something and they're like, I don't like this. It's too rigid. I can't loosen something. Or this is moving too much. I need something more rigid. Or you need just a mix of both. And when you've done your proper market research, just make sure you check the internet that something doesn't already exist. So you're not going down a rabbit hole just to make something that you could have bought on Amazon. So yeah. And now we will be doing a little quiz to go over what we talked about. Feel like a mini competition.
I have no idea how many people are in the room. We'll give everybody a couple more seconds, minutes.
It's not that long of a quiz, so
Don't worry.
don't be scared. It's really easy too.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and get started, but you can always join. First question. Which of the following is not an off-the-shelf wheelchair mounting solution? We've got Readapt, Rhino mounts, Ram mounts, and modular hose. Let's see what everybody's saying. All right. A little bit of a split crowd. Yeah, Rhino mounts. I will say, I don't know if Rhino mounts is like a car company. Who knows? But they're not like a wheelchair mounting. All right, next question.
Off-the-shelf mounting solutions are always designed to meet the specific needs of a patient. True or false?
That's okay. We'll go. Let's see what everybody's saying. False. Correct. Yep. All right, next question. Which of the following can be used to create custom mounting solutions? 3D printing, spare parts and hardware, a combination of off-the-shelf items, or all of the above? Still missing one. That's okay. Maybe they're having technical difficulties. All right. Oh, everybody got it right. Holy cow. 100%. Yep. All of the above. All right. Who is our winner? Casey. She was the quickest. Holy cow.
17 seconds.
Oh
Whoa,
my goodness.
we're on it.
Yeah. Your prize in the mail. All right.
And just to add, so if you liked any of the stuff that we talked about, whether it's mounting, and we also have, so we have the NIH 3D. I included the website because there you can find different designs, whether it's mounting or like adaptive gaming or like a task board. It's a good resource and it's open source so that it includes the design files, the instructions to assemble the device, and the instructions to use the device. So yeah, feel free to take a picture or check it out. I'll give it a couple seconds for people taking pictures.
All right. That is all that we have for you guys today. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. And if you want to contact us, our emails are at the bottom. Well, Olivia is going to be walking around for questions. Yes, we will.
I think great presentation, by the way. I think what I've come up against most often is users that want to be able to place and remove their phone by themselves, but they have limited hand function. And I'm struggling to find a good magnetic mount that they can just put it and it magnetizes, because all of the RAM mounts and things that require that finger dexterity or two-handedness to be able to place and remove. Have you guys come up with any good magnetic phone mounting solutions?
That is in the process for us. We have been trying to dabble into the magnetic mounts, mainly using a combination of like RAM has a magnetic mount, and then you need to find the metal plate to put on the person's phone. So then they can just put it up, or like something like a MagSafe mount to if they have an iPhone. We've run into trouble with the like how strong the magnet is, because then they go over like a bump and then the phone falls off. So it's in the process, but we're really hoping that we figure something out soon for that.
I've also seen some veterans where if they don't have that very fine motor movement and they're using a lock line phone clip, they kind of just push their phone up against a table. And if they only have one hand to kind of really move, they put it against one table and then the other hand is kind of tightening it while they're holding it with their arm. It's kind of technique work.
Similar to yours with the dexterity and managing the little screw. Sometimes I'll just unscrew that part and just take that completely off. So there's just a little bit of the other side of the plate there. And if they're okay with Velcro on their phone cover and they can manage that too. It's the same kind of issue with the magnet though. If they go over something bumpy, in general, it's pretty sturdy, but I've done that too. I found that I just take that piece off and put Velcro on instead.
I've had quite a few end users out in my area that who are on a tight budget. They found a pretty cool cellular mount from Five and Below, and it has a shockingly good gooseneck. That's so if you ever check it out, they have a dual like phone iPad mount that you can modify. It's at Five and Below.
Thank you. That's good to know.
Yeah, it's like a 99-cent store. It's called Five and Below. It's $5 or $5.99. Yeah. Yeah, like the dollar. It's actually pretty good.